Hello, everybody. David Schuster here. Legal experts tracking the murder case of Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin are now hammering FBI Director Kash Patel. They say Patel, by publicly detailing the evidence, is harming the prosecution case and enabling all kinds of defense arguments and motions.
But to detail the evidence is contrary to regulations that govern the practices of the Department of Justice. That's because when you share the results of evidence, you can violate the due process rights of a defendant and jeopardize their right to a fair trial. Maybe Kash Patel doesn't care about his rights to a fair trial, but he should be caring about the success of this prosecution and investigation.
Patel has publicly stated the alleged shooter left DNA on a screwdriver and towel, left footprints and palm prints, and had extensive online messages with friends.
He had a text message exchange, the suspect, with another individual, in which he claimed that he had an opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and he was going to do it because of his hatred for what Charlie stood for.
At the time of Patel's television appearance, none of this alleged evidence had yet been introduced in court. And as legal analyst Barbara McQuaid pointed out on MSNBC, Patel has now helped the defendant's lawyers to seek all sorts of changes to this murder trial.
It does tee up a potential motion for the defendant to use these words against Kash Patel as a suggestion that he would be denied a right to a fair trial. Now, I don't think any judge is going to dismiss this case based on what is likely to be the strength of the evidence, but it could result in a change of venue or other kinds of complications that you just don't need. So I would ordinarily say this is amateurish. Maybe that's what it is. But it also seems like it is more about driving a political story than a sound criminal investigation.
Politics instead of a strong prosecution. And this is just adding to the growing criticism of the FBI director. He has made employment decisions based on agents' political loyalties. He fired several agents for assisting the Department of Justice in prosecuting the January 6th rioters. Other FBI agents have been fired for helping to collect evidence about Russian interference in the 2016 presidential election. Patel has also eliminated FBI investigations into right-wing extremist groups. Just hours after the shooting of Charlie Kirk, Patel wrote on social media that a subject was in custody. 2 hours later, Patel had to write on social media that the subject had been released because that person had nothing to do with the shooting. Patel was asked about his social media blunders by the team at Fox and Friends.
When we were still looking for the guy, I know you posted that we got him. That ended up not being true. You took some incoming because of that. What led to you posting that? Why did you feel so certain about it? And what do you have to say about the criticism?
No, I appreciate this opportunity. Look, as I stated, I was being transparent with working with the public on our findings as I had them. I stated in that message that we had a subject and that we were going to interview him, and we did, and he was released. The job of the FBI is not just to manhunt the actual suspect who did the killing or suspects, but it's also to eliminate targets and eliminate subjects who are not involved in the process, and that's what we were doing. Could I have worded it a little better in the heat of the moment? Sure. But do I regret putting it out? Absolutely not. I was telling the world what the FBI was doing as we were doing, and I'm continuing to do that, and I challenge anyone out there to find a director that has been more transparent and more willing to work the media on high-profile cases, or any case the FBI is handling, than we have been under my leadership.
But what Patel calls transparency could also be described as reckless self-promotion. And Patel has long seemed more interested in boosting his public profile than in protecting the integrity of federal law enforcement. And by the way, when the FBI finally got the right guy, they actually didn't. The FBI never caught Charlie Kirk's suspected killer. The suspect's dad and pastor turned him in. While Patel and his lieutenants were busy staging press conferences and photo ops, it was the alleged shooter's family who did the actual law enforcement. It was the family who literally placed the alleged shooter in the hands of a federal marshal. Even the arrest announcement was pure political theater. The Trump administration and FBI Director Patel sat on the news of the arrest for 9 hours so that Donald Trump could break it on Fox and Friends. Patel milked the delay for political optics. That's not law enforcement, it is partisan reality TV. Even influential right-wing activists are criticizing Patel now. Christopher Rufo, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute, which is a conservative think tank, wrote on X that it's time for Republicans to assess whether Kash Patel is the right man to run the FBI. Quote, I've been on the phone the last few days with many conservative leaders, all of whom wholeheartedly support the Trump administration, and none of whom are confident that the current structure of the FBI is up to this task. Conservative media figure and influencer Eric Erickson wrote on X, "I'm glad real Chris Rufo said what he said. He's right. The FBI situation is concerning." The New York Times is reporting that Patel lashed out at FBI agents across the country recently during an intense and profanity-laced virtual meeting. Patel reportedly accused agents of not giving him information fast enough. And Patel focused his anger at the Salt Lake City FBI special agent in charge of the Kirk shooting case. But that agent is new to the job because Patel last month purged several FBI agents across the country, including the head of the Salt Lake City field office. In other words, Patel dumped agents with decades of combined knowledge and experience into the FBI's sophisticated tactics for finding alleged criminals. The FBI's bungling in the Kirk shooting case reportedly extends to the handling of the firearm that was used. Agents apparently held on to the rifle for several hours before finally turning it over to the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms for analysis. That delay opens up another defense opportunity and could poison a potential jury into thinking that law enforcement tampered with key evidence. In other words, Kash Patel's lack of experience, his bungling, and his political motivations are making cases, including this one, more difficult. An assassination prosecution that should be cut and dry is now complicated. And once again, the Trump administration is facing bipartisan criticism that key officials are incompetent. Add Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, to the list. By the way, speaking of clumsiness and ineptitude, even Fox News is now hammering the Trump administration's mishandling of the Epstein files.
How the White House has handled the Epstein saga at every step of the way, I think, has made a problem worse that didn't need to be. I mean, we've talked about this before. They didn't need to overpromise and underdeliver on the files. They don't need to deny the fact that Donald Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. That is part of the public record. The way that they've handled it, though, has made the White House appear guilty.
The latest example dissected by Fox News over the weekend involves this. It's a bawdy birthday greeting Trump allegedly wrote and signed for Jeffrey Epstein more than 20 years ago. I hate scams, especially the ones that target seniors, and Medicare is chock full of them. Between commission-hungry brokers and thousands of confusing plan options, most seniors aren't on the best plan for them. That's why we partnered with Chapter. They're fully independent and they work for you, not the insurance companies. They can review all your options in under 20 minutes, and the average senior they help saves over $1,100 a year. And the best part, it doesn't cost you a thing. Call the number on your screen today.
Dialogue here. Donald says a pal is a wonderful thing. Happy birthday. May every day be a wonderful secret. And they've compared it to other acknowledged signatures by Donald Trump, and you kind of acknowledge this, and it looks like his signature, but he says no.
It's not my signature, and it's not the way I speak. And anybody that's covered me for a long time knows that's not my language. It's nonsense. And frankly, you're wasting your time.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Schuster. Thanks for joining us.